Hello, and this is Formula One Fans of America. I believe this is episode 16, possibly episode 17.
It's in the upper right or left-hand corner.
We're going to go with 17.
Well, it's 16.
I mean, that's because I scramble titled it as I hit record, and it asked me for the title, so that's why I'm still a little unsure.
It's been a
16, 17, who knows?
I missed you guys.
I miss you guys too, man. This is
I miss Jay. I can't believe it, but I did.
I told you whenever we first started this, you were going to love me by the end.
Yep, you're right. You're right.
Is this like a little bit of Stockholm syndrome?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Now my question is, who's the captee and who's the captor?
Does it matter?
I would love to.
I think I took both of them captive, and they're both just assimilating into their
like the board
right now.
Like the board.
I was just drawn on with the promise of like candy and a rickety van.
Resistance is futile.
But sorry, my allergies are bugging out on me here.
It's all good.
That new climate, yo.
But 2024, pretty good year for us. We kicked off this particular show about midway through the year. This being our 16th, 17th episode. Jay and I did, I think, 2 or 3 kind of practice episodes one-on-one. We added Greg on as our third. And then I had a gig with another radio station. We're actually on terrestrial radio and international radio. But we decided to take a pivot and connected with Fabian and decided that we wanted full, complete control and autonomy over the content we create. And we wanted to make this the official show of Formula One Fans of America. So formerly the Pit Stop Podcast, that's what we started out at. It was good to change our name because there is already a podcast called The Pit Stop. It's not in their title as like the Pit Stop Podcast, but theirs is already, I think it's like Pit Stop or The Pit Stop, and they're vastly more successful than we are. That was just Jay and I brainstorming one-on-one, trying to create a name. Turned it into this is more aptly titled, Formula One Fans of America. Great numbers so far this year. We started out, I think, when Fabian and I first initially started talking back in May, June timeframe, right around there, you'd had like 1,200 followers. And since then, we've grown to 50,000 followers on Facebook. We've gotten free merchandise from Fanatics. This is rapidly accelerated from a place of literally ground roots, guys just commenting back and forth on social media, and literally just Jay and I messaging each other about Formula One and hockey. Is kind of how we stayed in touch the last 18 or so years. And it was, hey, I want to do podcasting. I want to do something like this. This is something I'm passionate about. Something you're passionate about. Let's go ahead and try it. And then, it's spun off into where we are now. So added Greg on, he's unfortunately still working through the day. I was actually on a work call with him earlier today. But I love this. This has been a really wonderful year. This is something that I was doing as a hobby already for a little bit over a year. And I'm very, very pleased and grateful for the success that we've had. And literally Monday is my favorite day of the week when I get to sit down and talk with you guys. So yeah, had a 2-week absence. I am now back in the same time zone as Jay. And a lot has taken place since the conclusion of this season. So we'll go ahead and launch into our first recurring segment. We were right. We were wrong. We were right about Checo. He's done. We were right, I guess, on like my second prediction, because I thought Mexican Grand Prix. I think we all kind of landed on that. We all were in concurrence. And then it was like, all right, now it's the end of the season. They granted him a little bit more courtesy than they gave DR3. Go ahead and jump in, Fabian.
We didn't know that he had to deliver several hundred bottles of tequila.
That's exactly what I said. It's the Christmas commercial.
It was literally after he delivered the tequila.
They were like,
boom, he was gone.
Did you all see the reverse of that after he got the message? It was him loading it back into the truck. Like they just played the video in reverse. I was dying.
Sure once he handed Horner his bottle, Horner was like,
Vámonos. Sorry, go ahead, Rich.
Oh, I wish.
No, I love it. Great interjection. Yeah, they gave him a hell of a lot more loyalty than they did DR3. Granted, I get that because, Danny kind of burned them and leaving teams and, showed that there really is no loyalty between drivers and teams. 2024, we see the end of the reign of Lewis Hamilton at AMG Petronas. That was a very respectful and kind send-off by the team over there at Mercedes AMG Petronas. It's kind of how you do it, and it's what you do to a 7-time world champion.
My favorite is they had Bono in Lewis's Hilfiger jean outfit.
That was crazy.
It was so bad. It was beautiful.
It was awesome. He looked like a lunatic.
No, I love that. It shows you that there's no love lost, in those relationships there. At times it's very little tumultuous and testy between them, especially those two in particular. But it does go to show you that, cooler heads have prevailed and that, they're good. They're on good terms. They're going to stay on good terms. So I like that.
I would say that Bono and Hamilton were probably on the better terms of engineers with their drivers in general.
Most certainly.
Yeah.
But 2022, 2023, that relationship was being strained and was
him and Toto.
Pretty. Yeah. That's apologies.
Okay. Because I was like,
I'm talking about the relationship with Toto, not with Bono. Yeah.
Yeah.
Principal versus owner or engineer. Sorry, my terminology there.
I mean, Toto was the scorn spouse. I don't blame him.
Right, and there was a lot of reasons for Toto Wolff to be upset in that instance, and with what happened. But there was a lot for Lewis to be sort of upset and jaded about as well. So, but good correction. No, I'm talking about Lewis's relationship and the send-off that Toto gave him. But it was from everybody on the team, and it was warm all around and respectful. And like that's sort of what you'd like to see a team do for a driver that's ending like their tenure. Even though he's going to keep driving, he got a much better send-off than probably the last F1 race of Ricciardo's career. Was it Singapore?
Okay.
Daniel just got screwed.
I get it. You want to talk about the wins and you want to talk about the stats. We've already had that argument and that discussion.
No.
He didn't fucking win any races, didn't score them enough points.
That's not even where I'm going with this.
Okay.
Ricciardo, y'all know I'm a huge DR3 fan. There's no questions there. You said it already that he burned Red Bull badly. And it sent them looking for a second driver for 3 fucking seasons. That's a long time in Formula One. Now, he came back with his tail between his fucking legs after putting up how many bad years? 3, 4, I think. And just expected to hop right back into that Red Bull machine. Because he had one good tire test.
He put in bad years, or did the cars that he were in not perform well? Because that shit at Renault, like, come on, man,
he was still doing well at Renault. He chose to leave Renault to go
when
to
the car chose to. When the car could finish the fucking race. How many DNFs did he have? Like 7 because of the car. It was a ridiculous amount, dude, and it was a mistake that he made, right? Well, yeah, you're going to progress downward when you're in an inferior car versus the best car on the grid, right? Well, the second best at the time because Mercedes was the best on the grid.
I think it bounced around a lot during that time between Red Bull, Ferrari, and
when he left Red Bull was still running Renault engines. They were still having problems. It was not the car that he needed to be in. Every single one of these guys believes that they're going to be world champion. Every single one of these guys believes that they need the equipment to be world champion and to compete with Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes. At the time, it was a questionable decision, right? He was smart to leave Renault for McLaren. He should have stayed at McLaren. But that really wasn't
He didn't have the choice to stay at McLaren. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. He didn't really have the choice because Piastri came up. But
regardless, there was still that fucking gap between him and Norris that was fucking astronomical.
But Red Bull has the most number of drivers on the grid that came up from their junior program. So why were they so lackluster then in locating somebody? You know what I mean? I don't know.
That's
So
fair.
here's my thing. DR3 knew he was on a very, very short leash.
Mm-hmm.
He knew that straight from the fucking rip.
Mm-hmm.
The Zandvoort crash was not his fault, because if he would have done anything differently, Piastri would be dead right now. No questions asked. So he got injured. Lawson came in. They gave him back his seat whenever they really didn't have to. Like, realistically, they could have left Lawson in that seat for the remainder of the year. And then we might not have seen 2024 of Checo's mishaps. Now, the only point that I will say that DR3 got screwed is because Liberty Media and whatever Carlos Slim's fucking company is came down and was like, fuck you, do not fire him right now. We cannot have this. We're going to lose a ton of money. And DR3 got fucked out of the Red Bull seat then. But past that, past summer break, he did nothing, absolutely nothing other than get a fastest lap point. And actually, he didn't even get the fastest lap point because he didn't finish in the top 10. So I have a hard time feeling bad for this. Like, Lewis getting to do donuts on his last race for Mercedes, completely understandable. Vettel retiring, doing donuts with Max, Lewis, and him. Or wait, was it Fernando? I can't remember who else was
Fernando.
there. Yeah. But them three doing donuts, completely understandable. DR3 getting to push that car to its extreme that it could. That in the V carb, that was probably about as good as it could push. Because they can't unfuel it any more than it already is. The only thing they could do is change the tires.
Let me tell you something. This is classic Horner shit. He's just clinically evil. The dude is clinically
I
evil.
never disagreed with you on that.
Yeah, I'm saying, like, there was no reason for them to handle that the way they did and let him go the way they did. It's just wrong. And, you know, because anyway, Horner is a piece of work.
It could have been worse, though.
It could, like, seriously,
he could have been
a lot
notified
worse.
that he was getting fired through the press, which has happened before.
Or they could have just let him go through Singapore and dropped him that Monday. Like, he knew he got to experience that. At the end of the day, he is not a championship driver. Simple as that. He does not deserve the respect of a Hamilton, of a Vettel, of a Alonso whenever he finally decides to retire. You know,
all right, well, that's a false argument that nobody's making. I'm not making that objection or that argument, right? And that's
I'm not saying you in general. I'm saying
okay.
I'm saying the media.
Nobody's saying that. Well, no, I don't think anybody's saying that he deserves the same kind of send off that Hamilton deserves, because he certainly doesn't, right? Like, that was my comparison, my point.
Let's put it this way:
no,
he certainly deserved the send off that Sainz
more than what he got. He deserves more than what he got.
I won't disagree.
Is what I'm saying. He deserves more than this, like, Irish exit after a Grand Prix. This is where, like, by the way, he's not going to fucking be here next week. Like, this fucking sucks for the fans. It sucks for him. And, like, that's really
that they couldn't give him
where it is like, well, we're the ones that I'm not even justifying another race or anything. Give some kind of pageantry to this for a mid-season send-off. Like, this guy is a fan favorite. You're fucking over your fan base by doing this. It's a dumb business decision by Red Bull to send him off like this. Like, I don't want to fucking support Red Bull as a team anymore.
It's the culture.
DR3 was my guy. I don't give a fuck.
Issue.
Like,
it's a culture.
And I get it. Like, yeah.
Okay.
I think sometimes the business decisions get in the way, and they're not understanding what side their bread is buttered on, because the money comes from the fans and the viewership. And if I don't buy your gear anymore, Red Bull, because I don't give a fuck what Max Verstappen does next year, and I don't give a shit what anybody else you have on your team does anymore, like, I don't care. Like, you think anybody's going to buy V-carb gear next year? Like, maybe a couple 100,000 people in Japan. Well, yeah, whatever it's going to be next year. What is it going to be next year?
Racing Bulls.
Racing Bulls.
Racing Bulls?
I loved it when it was
That's a hell of a lot
AlphaTauri.
better than the Visa
AlphaTauri
Cash
was
App
great.
Red Bull
Fucking
Formula 1
AlphaTauri
team.
and Toro Rosso, both were fucking
Yeah.
great.
I thought those were
Yeah.
really good.
But they're
Racing
companies
Bull?
and they walked away. They're companies and they walked away from the title sponsorships, so it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing: this has always been how
I'm
Red
buying
Bull has done
Enchante merch
business.
next year.
You're buying what?
Enchante
Enchante. It is Daniel Ricciardo's
brand,
fashion company.
yeah.
I'm buying that
So,
next year. And I'm buying stuff
Rich.
from Fanatics. Shout out to Fanatics.
Rich, here is the biggest thing.
Nice plug.
At the end of the day, very nice plug, by the way. At the end of the day, this is the way that Red Bull has always done things.
In F1,
Yes.
not elsewhere.
Yes.
No, but in F1, which
Because
Matish's
it boils
agreed
down
with
to
99% of the time.
3 people, right? So here's my question, Jay. Like, let me interject here. Do you mentioned like this is a cultural thing, and like you mean cultural rebel, or do you mean sort of kind of Western European culture where it's like hard line? Hey,
I'm
this
saying
is
F1
this,
in
this
general.
business, like you're done, or you okay? So F1 culture in general. We just
Any
cut you
driver
off
that
and-
has ever
and
been
say,
cut
"Fuck
in
you."
the mid-season, any driver that has ever been cut mid-season has never gotten a celebration, whether they're fan favorites, whether they're lovable, anything. Does not fucking matter. They got jack fuck all. Gasly gets cut from Red Bull, nothing. Albon gets cut from Red Bull, nothing. Logan Sargent gets cut from fucking Williams. Absolutely nothing other than a giant fuck you and a breath of fresh air for Williams because they just don't have to pay anymore. But then again, Colapinto fixed that one real quick.
I was gonna say, Crash Pinto made that null and
He
void.
fucked himself out at F1. He done.
So
I guarantee you, we do not see him back on the grid now.
really, pretty sure he's gonna be there all next year. I'll make
No,
that
he's
as a
not.
bold
Where?
prediction.
Where?
You know? Oh no, wait, not Cole Pinto. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
thinking of somebody else. Yeah, you're right. All right,
Yeah.
stand
Mhm,
corrected.
mhm.
Um,
But regardless,
yeah,
this
no,
is what
I don't
I'm
think he
saying.
will be now. Yeah,
Okay,
No,
so now let's
agree
look
with
at
you.
retiring drivers
Yeah.
or people who do not have a spot on the grid. Valtteri Bottas, which is arguably one of the most lovable drivers on the grid. He doesn't have a seat. Did he get a send off? Fuck no. Joe Granu, first
Yeah,
Chinese
he's-
driver in F1 history. Did he get a send off? No. He got a nice fuck you and have a nice day. Fucking K-Mac, the first man to actually take a goddamn 12-point penalty. The first man to do it. Is he getting a send-off after leaving Haas the first time, not getting a send-off, coming back to Haas, and still not getting a send-off? He single-handedly
you're not
saved
proving me
that
wrong,
fucking
man.
team.
Like they all should get some sort of better send off.
I'm not
I
saying
really
that-
forgot what we were arguing about.
that this is
F1
F1 culture.
That was my point. Was like you should, yeah. So I get what you're saying. This is F1 culture. So if you get dismissed midseason, you don't get shit. Like it's basically
Even
like
if you get dismissed at the end of the season, you don't get shit
Yeah.
half the time.
yeah, that's stupid.
Like, it's shitty.
It's stupid.
And I don't disagree with you at all. I'm just saying, like, there
Yeah.
are plenty of drivers that haven't gotten shit. Philip Massa is another one. Or Fleet Massa, sorry, is another one. There's a dude that deserved a send-off. Kimmy didn't get much of a send-off either. So,
I mean, you can
somebody
understand
who's
why.
won
I
8
mean,
races,
he
while a
likes
great
to
achievement,
finish, but yeah,
I know, but while a great achievement, and I will not take anything away from somebody who has actually won an F1 race, or let alone multiple F1 races, I will not take that away from them. They still did not hold the prize at the end of the day. Whether that
yeah,
be World Drivers'
it's more.
Championship,
It's just a lack of
or World Constructors' Championship, because DR3 has neither one of those.
I get you, man, but like it's a lack of consideration and respect of the fans is my ultimate point and why I brought it up.
But do we
I
really
it's
think that they
stupid
give a
and
shit about
silly
the
from his
fans?
perspective. I think you should. I mean, when
No,
the
I'm
money
not,
comes
it's
from
not,
us
it's
and the
not a question
viewership,
of, it's not a question of should or what is, actually important or right, because technically the fans make the sport. But do you really think they give a shit?
I think they care about money. I think they care about money just like anybody else does in this sport. And like really in this
I think
world,
they
that's what it
overlook,
all
though, the
boils down
fact
to.
that the fans' support is what's bringing them sponsorships.
That's exactly my point. And that's why I think it's a silly business decision to not acknowledge this in front of the fans, to not provide some sort of pageantry, to say goodbye and like make this a thing, right? Because at
To
the
be
end of the
honest,
day,
I
yes,
feel
this
like
is a
it matters
business
more.
transaction and like the
But not
personal
only that, it
relationships.
matters more now because of how transparent F1 has become with social media.
And Drive to Survive and everything else, and everybody gets to see the drama behind the scenes. And I think that's why there's going to be people outside of me who are far more incensed about this topic than I am. I think of it as like, man, that's just kind of like a
Do
little
you think that
disrespectful
they
and
do
lack
it
of
on
respect.
purpose? Hold on. Do you think they do it on purpose to drum up more drama for Drive to Survive?
No, I think it actually just falls in line with what Jay is saying, and it's just an F1 cultural thing. If you get dismissed in the season and you're not like a championship winner for this team, you're really not that special to them. And I think that that's where we all agree, which is that's wrong. And us as fans and viewers and others around the world, like this is why we tune in and watch and provide our support and our money. So like it's a fault here in this culture, and that's what I'm trying to highlight and identify is that like you're fucking this up because you had an opportunity to even do DR3 VCarb 2024 gear would have sold out probably, you know, because it's the last time we're going to buy his fucking gear. Like it's the last like DR3 shirt I'm going to shop for, right? For a lot of fans. So they're fucking this up from a business standpoint, and that's my point ultimately. But let's move on. There's so many decisions going on with Red Bull now that Checo's gone. So what does this mean? Fabian, I'm going to kick it over to you.
You're on mute.
Jay was mentioning earlier that the concept of Yuki and Lawson being gone, even Hadjar.
No, not Yuki.
Yeah, Hadjar. Yuki and Hadjar being gone by the end of the season next year. That's interesting because you see Red Bull exhibiting some buyer's remorse in some areas already, right? You've got this guy Lawson who, if you remember when they did that famous drone shot, the one lap around drone shot, the first person to drive it and do it was Lawson. And then Max did it in the wet, right? So you kind of had a real strong hint that Lawson kind of was the guy, because here they are showcasing him in this big moment where Red Bull steps into this small drone company's life and helps them, put together the perfect drone to pull this shot off. And then sure enough, Lawson winds up in F1 and then subsequently gets named the guy, right? Then you get this Hadjar thing. And if you notice the news lately, Hadjar's been saying that since mid-season, he knew he was going to F1. He knew it, but they weren't prepared to announce it yet, right? So, and then on the tail end of all this in the offseason, you find out that Hadjar was faster than everybody that they looked at. Faster than Lawson, faster than Yuki. So here you got this kid that was, if you remember early in the season in F2, he was the guy that avoided the tragic collision in the tunnel at Monaco. That was featured all over the place, the quick reflex reaction deal. Now you come until the end of the season, he becomes the last guy announced and winds up actually being the fastest guy on their grid, right? And so you do start to wonder if Lawson's, time in F1 is already written in stone. What Jay said was what caught my attention, though. He said, because neither of them will be able to keep up with Max. I don't know that would be the reason. I don't know that they have an expectation of the driver next to Max to keep up with Max, but I do think they have an expectation for that driver to at least finish in the top 10. And that's something that Checo was unable to do, right? Consistently. So I don't know that it's got to be a top 5 guy. Certainly, let's be clear. Absolutely, you want the 1-2s. You want as many 1-2s as you can, no question. You definitely want your second guy in the top 5. That's no question. But he would survive, I think, if he goes through the season and is a consistent top 10 performer and Max is still finishing in the top 3. I think he would survive it. What do you think?
And I think there was suitable speculation that around DR3 outperforming Checo, and I guess in some way he just never proved it to the team that was what was going to happen, and that was what everybody wanted, right? Like myself included. Like I was on that hopium, as Jay said in the early years or early days of the season, but I was injecting hopium and just praying that he would get back into that number 2 seat.
But what's the formula? What's the formula for the number 2 guy going into 2025? Jay's going to answer this. What's the formula for the number 2 Red Bull seat to go past 2025 into the new regulation period?
So it has come out that they want nothing more than 0.3 of a second behind Max for that Red Bull car. They expect their drivers to be able to perform. They are not having another Checo situation where their hands are that fucking tied. Apparently, in Lawson's contract with Red Bull, it states that he must stay within 0.3 of a second of Max during qualifying, because during a race, that's borderline impossible. Let's be real here. But the gap that they're saying, I forget how that gap is calculated, but they want this throughout. If it is not by summer break, he will lose his seat and go to Racing Bulls, at which point you have to think they're going to bring up Hajar over Yuki. Unless if Yuki is completely blowing Hajar out of the water, which very possible.
Do you think that that's the same expectation for a Lawson, though, or a Hajar as opposed to a Checo? Like, we're talking about drivers with different history, different time in F1, or do you think that there's a different metric for those guys?
That is Lawson's contract. That gap has to stay at a certain point, just like Checo had to stay within a certain amount of points of Max. Lawson has to stay so close to Max, because obviously they know the RB20 is shit. The RB21, we don't know how it's going to come out yet, but apparently they've found quite a few issues and they're hoping to reverse it throughout the new season. But that's going to take time. So saying that you have to remain within this many points of Max is not really feasible.
Yeah. Right.
But to say that you have to qualify in these certain amount of times, because that's where Checo really struggled, Red Bull is setting themselves up for success there.
Or failure. Run.
I would say more success, because Lawson, so far, we have not seen anything out of him that is massively impressive. The only reason I think he got the seat is because he threatened it. He's like, if you don't give me the seat, I'm fucking walking. Because he doesn't want to stay in racing.
He's super good at commentating. He's a really good,
he's also good at Twitch streams, I hear.
Actually,
what?
Actually, Doohan is really good at commentating. He's better than Lawson. And he might wind up there quicker than Lawson, too. But I don't know. I know you say you didn't see a lot out of Lawson, but Lawson wasn't in the Red Bull either, So we'll see. I mean, I'm curious because of his history with the team and how many times they've put him in the car, whether it's Goodwood or, the drone thing and all these other scenarios in which Lawson was in play. I'm really curious to see what he can do in equal machinery.
I wouldn't use the drone scenario as a good measure of talent or ability. He was the only car on the track.
Mm-hmm. They still recording times though.
Okay, so
like qualies,
Here's the biggest thing. There's a difference between doing something with barely anybody on a track versus how you actually perform inside of the track.
Mm-hmm.
Inside the grid.
Well, he definitely outperformed Checo in that regard.
The fuck he did. He didn't do well. Okay. He fucking hold on. I corrected myself real quick. Hold on.
You cannot use Checo as a measure, like someone
Thank
to
you.
measure up against. That is bullshit.
Thank you. That's where I was going with this. Besides, half
Right.
the time he finished behind Checo, the other half he ended up almost crashing into Checo.
I wouldn't even say half. I think most times he crashed into Checo.
No, he tried to a couple of times.
Alexander
But-
Albon is the epitome of what you were saying, and that is why he stays on the grid, because he qualifies well, he can drive a car well, but in a race, in around
Yeah.
multiple cars and pressure,
It doesn't matter
he
how well you
loses
drive in
his
quality,
shit
it matters how you
and
perform in
goes
the race.
all Stroll and goes all Lance Stroll and has no spatial awareness when there's multiple cars to track, and then that's when he
That's
gets in
also not
accidents.
fair. You cannot measure someone else to Lance Stroll either.
You can measure Albon against Stroll in the spatial awareness sense of how they crash. Like, he loses his sense of spatial awareness too, because he's trying to think about his turn line and he doesn't care about the car next to him. And that's why
He doesn't
crashes
give a
into
shit
it.
about anything. He does not want to be there anymore. Period.
Albon?
Albon or Stroll?
Stroll. We were just
Oh,
talking about
so-
Stroll.
But I'm comparing Albon to Stroll. So I was talking about Albon, but yes.
I don't
Albon
even think
loses
that's a
his
fair
spatial
comparison.
awareness when there's more than two cars and crashes into one of them. And then
So does Checo.
if he's battling a car, yeah, well, that's why he's no longer on the grid, and we were right.
It just took way
Let's keep it
too
moving.
long.
It was that Christmas commercial.
There's
I love you, man.
You
I
wanna-
really
you wanna
do.
talk
We-
about
we have-
send-offs? Checo had a hell of a send-off. He had like an extra 8 races and a wonderful tequila commercial.
That's a great perspective. And he got to deliver tequila.
He's like, I got a third of the season and my tequila plug. Fantastic.
That's good. That's good shit.
So many new drivers on the grid this year in 2025. I think we're going to see 6 new drivers coming in, right? Full time?
30%.
6 new?
Yes,
Yep.
30%.
Man, that's
That's
wild.
big.
yeah. Silly
That's a big
season
deal.
it was. Yeah. Like this is why they called it. Honestly, like, I had not tracked Formula One media super duper close in the last 2-3 years, but I was not familiar with the term silly season before this year or had adopted it. And now I'm like, okay, this is why we call it that, because what the hell? Like, so many decisions and moves and changes we've had to cover. Other topic. What'd you guys think about the Senna Netflix documentary or miniseries, not documentary, because that it was not. That
I haven't had a chance to
miniseries.
watch it.
I haven't watched it yet.
All right. Fabian, what did you think?
So, my first criticism of it was I thought there was just way too much freaking American rock and roll music in a movie about Senna. It was weird. I was like, where's the Latin music? What's going on here? That was kind of strange to me. Overall, so I thought that the first act, which was the first couple of episodes, laid a very predictable foundation. I thought that the second act, which was the next couple of episodes, got into the philosophy of Senna as a driver pretty well. I thought that was pretty cool. It was very on point with the things that you hear about him. I think they softened him a bit. I don't know that he was as amicable as he was portrayed in the show, honestly.
Yep.
But it did allow for people who might not necessarily be race aficionados to be more attached to the story. So I kind of understand maybe why they chose to go that way. And then I got to the second to last episode, and then I didn't finish watching it.
Why?
I don't know. It just
Didn't.
started to lose me a little bit.
Jay, you did not get a chance to watch it? So let me spare you the time. Don't.
Oh, I probably wasn't going to watch it anyways. After the Schumacher one, I probably won't watch it.
this was Hollywood formulaic. And like that's the best way to put it. And Fabian, like, agree or disagree with me if you what you think I'm about to say, but this felt like you hired a Hollywood writer, and not a good one, to cover this story and put something out because F1's gaining popularity on this streaming platform, and this is a big name, and it's a big name to a lot of people. And they still sell his merchandise. He's still highly revered and regarded. We'll talk about a reason why not, Jay. We have integrity on our show. To not like him, that I just learned. But for the most part, he is like considered a god in Formula One and like hero worshipped. And so for me, I expected better. This was like a watered down biography of a president.
So it was a cash
You know
grab
what I mean?
at the end of the day. That's all it was.
Not necessarily a cash grab, but like hear me when I say, like, if I wanted you to write a book for a high school age audience about the life of a president, and you could pick any fucking president, it wouldn't matter, and you would cover him just this way, like his childhood, his upbringing, struggle, strife. You know, like I follow the story arc when I write a story. You know, you have the crescendo at the top, and then like the denouement and the downwards like spine. So if you're gonna write any kind of story, like that's when I say this whole shit was formulaic, and it was a 6-episode formulaic, just kind of piece of shit, honestly. It doesn't represent the man himself accurately at all. It doesn't, like Fabian was saying, like it doesn't represent his tenacity, his temperament, the way that like he drove himself, like, and was so fucking committed that he could not lose. Like it took something there. Cadillac's coming in 2025. America.
Interesting development.
Wait, they're coming on in 2025?
26. I misspoke.
26. Okay.
But they're already at work. Very interesting stuff. Still haven't heard a follow-up on the purchase of the Renault F1 intellectual property thing. That's kind of an interesting development with them as well. Obviously, there's a little bit of rumor mill going around about Bottas expressing some interest in possibly being one of their drivers. That's fluctuated up and down, but he's actually, officially said, yeah, that's an interesting prospect for him. I'm curious from an American standpoint of who they're going to target as a potential driver, because I would expect that Cadillac is going to want to have at least one American driver in their team. And I have no idea who that would be.
Yeah, who would be available for that?
I don't know.
Jay, you're muted. If you say Sargent, I'm going to eat my hat.
For Cadillac? No. They're going to go for an old head, and they're going to go for an American driver. It's not going to be Sargent, obviously. I want to say
obviously,
it was
but
one NASCAR IndyCar. I can't remember. They were saying about him. He's young, though. And then they were going to go after a veteran to try to fill the other seat, like
Signs.
No, they don't want Signs. They were looking at Williams has his contract is so driver friendly. I don't think I've ever seen one that driver friendly. Basically, if any team above Williams opens up a seat, he can go to them.
Yeah.
But regardless, sure. I know there was talks at DR3, but DR3 basically said, fuck you, I'd rather retire.
He said no, he's done. Yeah.
Wait, was it Jack Crawford?
Jack Crawford was the American driver.
Yeah.
So it looks like there's talk about Jack Crawford, Pato O'Ward.
Maybe it's Pato O'Ward.
But he's Mexican. He's not American.
Oh.
Anyways, likely in the rumor mill is that they're going to go old and young, experience or inexperienced. So
Oh,
we'll see what happens.
it'll
With
be Brad Pitt.
yeah.
Brad Pitt scored more points than freaking Checo this year.
He did.
I said what I said.
Hey, there's some
Damn,
buzz
Meg.
going around. There's some buzz going around at Ferrari development. What's going on there?
Yes. Yeah. So have you
Yeah.
been tracking that? Yeah. So basically what we know at this point is that they're mixing up the push and pull rod configuration of the car. They're announcing that the car that they put out next year will be 99% different in terms of everything that the car that they fielded this year is. That's what they claim. And it involves some things like the intakes, side pod intakes, and a bunch of other things, the floor. It's really interesting because I did some research on Ferrari to see like what were some of their most successful years. Their 2002 car that Schumacher won his 5th championship in was an interesting beast. It did not have a mixed front and rear end type configuration at the time, just for shits and giggles, right? So I'm really curious about what they learned in 2024 that has pushed them in the direction of wanting to split up the front and the rear end the way they're doing. It's curious, because the car was performing really well throughout the year. They had probably one of the better development trajectories besides McLaren, and yet they're touting that this new car is going to be basically a whole new beast.
I mean, they were not far off in the Constructors' Points Championship. I think it was 14 points.
Yeah,
total.
were it not
Jay-
for a grid penalty, right? A grid
Yeah.
penalty was what took them out of contention, right? They were there.
And in a few bad decisions team wise throughout the year too that they sorted out on the latter half of the year. Right in the beginning, there was a lot of pit stop mistakes, and it was costing them serious points.
Right.
Jay had it as we were right. Like gosh, dude, I think you said it back
Second
in May.
or third race.
Like, yeah, it was Ferrari's fastest car in the grid this year, and that is probably one of the best we were rights that we have as a show, as far as analytics go, because you definitely were, man. And McLaren had it right, but it was any given Sunday, literally between Ferrari and McLaren was who's going to make mistakes, either drivers or team mistakes. Both of them are going through growing pains. Not necessarily Ferrari with growing pains with drivers, maybe growing pains with team strategy and growing pains in the pit crew.
Yeah.
McLaren definitely growing pains with team strategy, young drivers, and like not so much pit stops. I don't think McLaren had probably like 2 weekends where they had really bad pit stops. They cost them points.
They were on. They matched Red Bull this year for the record with 1.9.
So I was going to say they had 2 weekends where they had like kind of trouble in the pits. Otherwise, I can't think of anything to say about McLaren's pit team. It was mostly team strategy and driver strategy and youth that held them back with mistakes. It's what made this one of the best seasons that we've had probably in the last decade. Outside of 2021 excitement, this was awesome to have 3 teams like really truly competing, seeing things switch, only having a driver win 2 consecutive races. So no more than 2 times did a driver win a race. That's not normal, especially as the departure of the Hamilton and now the departure of the Verstappen era, where he dominated last year, and like we were questioning this. I think Jay said like it might have been a third way into the season, and Max had lost 2 in a row, and you're like, yeah, he's not going to lose a third in a row, and he didn't. And then I called it like, oh no, that was my podium prediction. It was Max is going to lose 3 in a row, and he did. it made this year far more interesting than the years previous. But let's go on into 2024 and recap. What were your guys' favorite moments? Jay, I'll start with you. Like favorite race, favorite driver moment. What do you got?
So before we go there, because I couldn't jump in on the previous one, you do realize that if Checo wouldn't have fucked it off into the wall with Sainz in Baku, Ferrari would have won.
Yes. Absolutely.
How sad is that? McLaren had the better car since end of May, beginning of June. And
since Miami.
That's why
Miami weekend on.
Yeah.
First weekend in May. Correct. Yep.
So, but yeah, no. Favorite moment.
Start with favorite race.
Oh, you fucker. Brazil, hands down. Brazil is always a good show. Like, I'm sorry. There literally was everything again. And Fabian, I know your little voodoo doll and your hatred of Max, blah, blah, blah. But Max cemented himself on Rushmore with that race. There's now no questions that dude belongs there. He literally had everything go against him except for one thing, and he turned around and dominated that field. It was impressive whenever Lewis did it in the dry. It was even more impressive whenever Max did it in the wet. And I don't think
it was impressive when Lewis did it in Turkey in the wet.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying Brazil as a track right now.
Mm-hmm. No, I get it.
So, like, realistically, and I won't take anything away from Hamilton's driving, and I never have.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, he's perfected that back tire magic, but we're not going there. As far as favorite moment, had to have been fucking Max whenever he won again and goes, that is simply lovely. Because that was the biggest fuck you nail in the coffin to Lando Norris right there. That is the mark of an arrogant ass champion and somebody who
Didn't he also do it in an English accent?
Yes, he did.
Pretty much, yeah. His best is in Austria.
With the lisp.
Yeah.
No, he did it. Yeah.
He did it purposely.
He can't help
with
the lisp.
That or Penelope at Abu Dhabi. Because she made sure to give fucking cute Lando stickers, give him a hug, went over to Max's car, helped him with the visor. Like, I'm sorry. Penelope
she needs to be
is
the president
ultimate
of the FIA.
F1 mascot.
She needs to be president of the FIA.
I love that
we
get to
stop
see the cuteness of.
Wait, say that again?
Like F1. I love that we get to see the cute side of F1.
She wasn't
Damn it, Rich.
I said that Penelope might have a little bit of problems if we have to stop every race for a tea party. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But
You know what
so
that's
cute.
like. You know what that's like. You know.
Yeah, that's my favorite. Meg, since I know you're going to have to jet out soon.
Yeah, your favorite.
My favorite race was Brazil. Just because of all the fucking shenanigans. But I also liked the Monaco race overall was the most boring race I have ever watched. But the first lap was wild.
When Checo fucked it off into the wall.
There was Gasly and Ocon.
Yep.
Magnussen, Checo, and who else was in that? I think it was also
Hülkenberg.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was both Haas and Checo.
Yeah, and just like the amount of damage to the
oh my god.
Yeah.
It was amazing. It was like a transformer.
It was really upsetting though, because watching it, I'm like, this is gonna be the most interesting fucking race I have ever seen. And then it wasn't.
Right.
But it was good for Charles Leclerc.
It is a very sophisticated game of follow the leader.
Yeah. But I did love the first lap of that race. I think favorite moment. I think my favorite moment of this year might have been having it's one of their like media days. It was V-Carb and Red Bull at Monaco. They had to build a raft, each team, and then try to push it across the pool while simultaneously collecting ducks. But I loved it because it just evolved into chaos within like 30 seconds. I think that's just my favorite point.
Yeah. So my highlights and my favorite moment would be Lando's first victory in Miami. That was a highlight. That was cool. Charles winning Monaco. That was really cool. Hamilton winning the British Grand Prix. I thought was really wild. And then of course Max winning the championship. That's a highlight. That's a big one. But I think my favorite moment was when Russell tried to strategize and fuck over Hamilton's win at Spa, and then he fucking got disqualified.
That was beautiful.
It was so good. I was like,
that was beautiful. I think
so
my favorite photo is
poetic.
like just in the corner.
Oh my god!
I would say I forgot about this until you just said that. Runner up would be Russell with the car on its side screaming red flag, red flag, red flag. Like, that has to be up there because it was like,
wasn't Stroll behind him?
No, nobody was after Alonso, or no, he was behind Alonso. I don't think there was anybody coming right up. I think it was like a 10-second, 12-second gap. But like literally before anything else, red flag, red flag, red flag, and he was off.
But I think it was because Stroll still had to pass him on the track, though.
Right, but he wasn't dead center of the track. He was off to the side of it. There was still room, and there was already yellow flags going to slow down. So, yeah, no, that has to be up there for most funniest moment of the season.
That's awesome.
All right. Favorite moments of the season. So I honestly have like a tie for two. One, just because I think I called it as my favorite moment of the season on like 6 different episodes. But it was Behrman calling for the gap to Hamilton. And you're in a Ferrari, you're in a gray car, it's your first Formula One race, and you're calling for the gap to a 7-time world champion. Like,
that's pretty cool.
That for that kid alone, like, he could do nothing else in Formula One. Like, if that was me, I was like, I'll retire. I'm good.
Yeah, right.
Like, yeah, I'm good. And he was still in the top 20 like points after one race. It's like, yeah, I showed up one time. And I love that. Like, I think he was in like the top 16. I'm not sure where Behrman finished.
And then Sainz coming back.
I love that
moment. And winning. That was pretty freaking awesome.
Which is wild.
It's way less.
Which is this. It's one of those things where you have pain to distract you, and like you don't like it. It's the exact same thing as Stroll. Stroll just needs to I'm just gonna hit him in the leg with a hammer before he gets on the grid.
His wrist,
dude. Stab him in the leg with a fork.
No, with his wrist.
Stab him. I'm gonna stab him in the leg with a fork before every race. Just like, bow. Get your
Just make sure it's the outer part of the thigh. Nothing important is there.
Go drive. Yeah, and here's some Toradol or whatever the docs gave you to get you through this. But whatever it was, he ran his best race hurt too. So Jay, you talked about 16-1 Brazil, Verstappen. Look, what about
17?
Leclerc?
Oh, I'm not taking anything away from
Leclerc, 19th, championships on the line, and he goes 19th to podium.
I am not disagreeing with you, and I said that was fucking huge.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Apologies. I'm not.
I think the problem is just so much shit happened
Settle
this
down.
season.
I called it out the last podcast. I said that is fucking amazing.
So that's my
And,
other favorite moment of the season. And to me, it's more momentous. I'm not calling you out. I'm just saying, like, that was a great moment, but this one was greater to me because of this.
Yeah.
Because it was
Oh,
at
and
the
Max
point of
was
the
17
season
to
that
1.
it happened. Okay, 17 to 1. Either way, it's still 16th, 16 positions. 19th to the podium is huge. And like when he did it at the point of the season that he did with the championship on the line, all the pressure is there. Like that just makes it that much more monumentous in my position. But what was your guys' favorite race? Go ahead, Jay.
We already said Brazil.
Yeah,
Okay.
he hit Brazil.
We were saying favorite moment. Do you have like a different
No,
favorite
and
race?
then
No.
I told him
She
to
asked me
start
for
with favorite
favorite race. And I said Brazil was absolute insanity, and I loved every minute of it. And then my favorite moment was Max with the Simply Lovely.
Yeah.
And then Meg
All right,
said Monaco/Brazil.
Yeah, first lap of Monaco, but overall Brazil.
Bye, Megs.
Okay. All right, but I mean,
See you guys next week. I think maybe. I don't know if we meet. Yes. Bye.
yes.
I love her. She's a trip.
More than likely take a week off, but we will be back in 2025. Let's see.
We're not done
What else
yet.
do we have? Okay, well, that's what I said. What else do we have?
Well, let's see.
What did we say for Conspiracy Corner? I can't even remember now.
It was
Where
about
is Yuki going?
Because you told
about
Yuki that
Where's
about Ajar and what's his face being gone by the end of the season.
he said that's not conspiracy because it's going to be
Okay.
fact.
Okay,
But
yeah.
no.
I do think Lawson will be out of the car.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be another Gasly Albon situation. I really do. So I think he'll be out of the car midway season because he's not going to be able to keep up with Max. It's going to piss him off. He's going to start talking shit. Marco's going to be like, okay, we've already talked to you once about this. Get the fuck out of the car. Leave your keys at the door.
Have you been tracking the latest revisions to the 2026 rigs?
I have not, just because they keep changing and I'm not keeping up with it until midway through 25.
Yeah, right, and that's to be expected, obviously, because as they work with the developers and the companies, they're going to find things that mathematically just don't work out in simulations and such, and so they've made some changes. There's been some
Didn't they raise the weight of the cars again?
No. What they did,
or did they lessen? I know they changed something with the weight. I just don't remember if it was up or down.
What they did was they've added a new element to the outside of the front wing. I call it the Charlton Heston Cecil B. DeMille tire shredder, right? So basically, there's this other aerodynamic element, but if you freaking touch that thing, I think it's all but guaranteed to generate punctures. It's in a post that I put on. You can see it. There's a couple of posts I did on it, actually. One of them is from, let me get the date, December 29th. There's a quick video clip tutorial of it. And then prior to that, a few days earlier, or maybe a week earlier, I did one with some static images where you can really see it. But if you look at the wallpaper, the cover page of our page, and you actually click on that image that's behind our logo on the Facebook page, you'll see the new element. It's right next to the A in FIA. It reminds me of some of the older cars in some ways. But if you click on our cover image, which is the car now, because I always put the circuit for each week up. Yeah. So you click on that, you'll see there's this fin now that's on there next to the letters FIA. That wasn't in the previous version. They've also changed. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say, so you were saying that's going to cause tire punctures. I disagree because that bottom fin is so far out compared to that top fin. I don't think it'll cause as many. The only thing that I've seen close to being like a true tire puncture was the McLaren wing in Hungary, I believe. And I even called that shit out back then, which was, this is going to get banned real quick.
Look at the opposite side. You'll notice. So the bottom fin has a bit bit of a curvature to it, whereas
Right.
the top fin on the front side of it is 90-degree angle.
We'll see, but
Yeah, it's interesting
I
stuff.
foresee teams actually rounding that off more.
Also, look at
rather
the brake. Look at the wheel covers. They're looking at going to a half cover as opposed to a full cover. That's another change. They've also modified the back wing some as well.
It looks more straight and narrow.
Yeah. So there's and there's a change to the front of the floor. So there's several new changes that have been adopted by the teams. And they're looking to basically, obviously increase speed because there were concerns about top end speed. And they're looking to make sure that this active aerodynamic stuff works in the way that it was intended on paper. So we'll see. There might be some more changes coming as well. But I thought that was kind of interesting because the two renders, when you put them side by side, are very different.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And here's the biggest thing is while they want to change so much, these regs are only going to last 3 to 4 years at max. Like, there is no way the engine, like, this will not be another turbo hybrid era. They will not be able to sustain this 50-50 battery power shit. It's not going to work. Because, A, those units break down too quick, and the battery units are actually more dangerous for the environment than the engines, and they're already putting limits on the engines and everything like that. This is going to wear down a battery so much faster. Like, it's just fucking dumb. But yeah, no, as far as the actual cars go, I foresee this model changing maybe 6 or 7 more times before we see anything. And I think the renders are just showing different things that it possibly could be, maybe. And whenever they decide to put out the actual true regulations is whenever it's going to be, everything's going to change around, fix around, and everything like that. But it's interesting to say the least. I don't disagree. Sorry, I'm looking like trying to figure all the different little nuances out about it. Yeah, I do like the half wheels. My head's starting to hurt.
And we're back. We took a brief potty break. I'm 40, and my bladder is not what it used to be, I guess. I don't know.
Old ass.
But we're going to talk about Yuki Tsunoda. Where's Yuki Tsunoda? Where is Yuki Tsunoda going, and where do we wish he would go? Like, because that's a two-part question, right? Like,
I feel bad,
at least for me. Yeah, go ahead.
I really do. I think that Yuki put his heart and soul into, everything that he's been doing. I think he's developed really well as a person, as a driver. I think that he's shown loyalty, to the team. And I just don't think that he's Horner's guy. And so I don't know where he's going to be after a while. Sooner than later, even. I'm just not sure.
So, conspiracy hats, boys. Yuki is going to end up in Aston Martin. The better question is, which seat? Because I don't know that Aston Martin really doesn't push for Max next year in 26. And I've been saying for a while that a Max and Yuki pairing would be fucking incredible. Like, I think between those two, you could see not as much drama as 2016, because I don't think anything will ever top that again at this point. Because I didn't think anything would ever really go past Prost and Senna, but I'm pretty sure Rosberg and Hamilton succeeded in that one brilliantly.
It does, if I can interject, it does answer the question of who could be Max's number 2. I think Yuki could fill that role out of all the 20 drivers on the grid going into 2025. I think Yuki would be happy to fill that role, either with Red Bull or another team.
Absolutely. Now, the only way that Yuki stays with Red Bull is if, like I said earlier, the Red Bull meat grinder actually starts up and goes full force this year, which I think it will with Lawson and Hajar. I really think you're going to see the meat grinder go full out. But then again, you're going to have a ton of pissed off North Americans in general and Latin Americans that are just going to be like, Lawson didn't even do as good as Checo was. Why did you have to dump Checo for Lawson? Like, this is fucking stupid. You're replacing him mid-season. Checo could have raced longer. So I think, if anything, that will literally be the saving grace for Lawson, because I do not think he is going to be able to keep up with Max. Because while he kept up with Yuki for the first, 2 races he was back in, I think, the other 4, he kind of shit the bed. And I don't think that was anywhere near good enough to get the Red Bull seat. Definitely Yuki should have took it. I think that would have given them the fan favorites, because I thought we were kind of alone in the Yuki Tsunoda love. But after watching a lot of different media and everything like that, not even F1, but just like us, the little guys who are sitting here talking shit every week in and out, everybody loves Yuki. Like, the fact of the matter is that them not putting in there, I think, cost them more. And honestly, I think if Dietrich was still alive, I think Yuki would have had the seat. I really do. But Hajar's a little fucking explosive bitch, so he's not going to take that Red Bull seat now that I'm thinking more and more on it. Because they do want somebody that's a little... What? There was nothing, no racism, no fucking xenophobic shit, nothing. The dude is
I'm just saying, easy. The kid's a freshman. Give him some time. Just be
Bro,
easy.
That kid's mouth, holy shit, could make a prison.
I mean, he's not much different than early Yuki, you know?
Oh, I'm not disagreeing.
All the kids' mouths. All of the kids' mouths are foul.
He does spend too much time. Hey, I'll give you this. Hajar spends too much time worrying about what everyone else is doing on the track.
And they already have Max doing that.
And expressing it on the radio, which is like, dude, move on, you know?
Yeah. I mean,
give credit where credit's due, give criticism where criticism is due. And give fair criticism of him. But I don't write him off so soon. You know, we'll see. Right? Like, he's gonna get his day on the grid, you know, and it may or not pan out. So
maybe we'll have another Nick DeVries situation. Oh, add that to the drivers replaced mid-season that fucking didn't.
Right.
Anyways,
that
moving along.
is not the same thing. DR3 is a worldwide treasure and deserved a send-off. I will die on this.
DeVries was really promoted too soon.
Yes, he was. If you can give me any sport that just celebrates wins, not championships, just wins for players whenever they go to retire, I will shut my fucking mouth right now. That's what I thought. Jump through the hoop. Anyways.
Can't argue with you, so I'm just going to flip you off.
That's fair, and I respect that. But no. Yuki to fucking Aston Martin to replace either Alonso or Stroll. Stroll's done after next year. I cannot see him staying at this point. I literally can't, because
I'll flag that as our not so bold prediction for 2025. This will be Lance Stroll's final year in F1. I concur with you, Fabian. Where are you at?
I agree.
Yeah, 2025 unanimous. That's not so bold prediction. What's a bold prediction for 2025, Jay?
A bold one?
Max leaves Red Bull for Aston Martin.
Oh, I like it. I like it.
Oh, hold on. Are we saying just for 2025 or after the season's over? After the season.
I mean,
well,
this
no,
next
we'll have all
right?
2025.
No, so
season.
like
I don't think Max would leave in the middle of the season.
All of 2025.
He'll give Red Bull the full season, but After that, no, because that gives Newey a full year with that Aston Martin to fix it and set it up for
He'll
Max.
still leave within side of 2025 though.
There's only what, like
December.
10 days that I think he can do that in December. I'm trying to think of
maybe.
when Sainz and Lewis were free from their contracts to do whatever they needed to do.
Irregardless, any other bold predictions for 2025?
Yes. I
Who's
think
going to win the?
there will
Who's
be
going to
a-
win the drivers? Who's going to win the constructors?
Oh wow, you're going right for the okie doke.
Yeah,
We can't do this without Megs and Greg. Come on.
we'll do it again. We'll do it again.
I'll do this. I'll say that I do believe that there will be a points battle at Ferrari in 2025. Because I think that Leclerc, I think what's going to happen is Leclerc, we're going to find out the mental prowess of Leclerc in 2025. Because the pressure he will place on himself alone can be undoing, possibly, right? You've got two guys, not Lewis isn't going into the car that he had. They're going into a new car together. And you've got this 7-time world champion guy, who comes in. He's increased the market valuation of the company already just by being announced that he's going there by billions of dollars. Leclerc is a badass driver. Like, the dude is legit. Okay, he is legit F1 dude. No question. But his mental prowess, I think, is going to be deeply tested just by the presence of this new teammate. And I think we're going to see a legitimate points battle in Ferrari next year. That's my bold prediction.
We're coming back with our bold predictions for 2025. Jay, what do you have?
So my bold prediction kind of plays off of Fabian's. You have the Ferrari golden boy for the past 6 years going against Lewis Hamilton, 7-time world champion, most wins in history, yada fucking yada. Both of them drive very similar, and I never noticed it. That car is going to be set up for both of them. And it is probably why it is a 99% change.
Yeah.
So you're looking at two drivers going into a car that neither have experience with whatsoever. You're going to have testing in Bahrain and then jump straight to Australia from there. I don't foresee either one of them getting a foothold in that car at least until Hungary, maybe. I think that's safe. That's what, 6 races in?
Well, yep. Mm-hmm.
I think that's a safe one. I think by that point, both of them will be too far out of the Drivers' Championship to really do anything. Now, McLaren is my bold prediction. McLaren's going to shit the bed because Oscar and Norris are both going to be going at each other. And we've already seen Oscar does not give a fuck at all.
That'll be Miami, actually. 6.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
I was close. I think Hungary's right after Miami, isn't it? Or close
Mm,
to it?
the way this
Or did they
schedule-
change it this year?
They changed it. So
Oh,
you're
okay.
starting in Australia,
Yeah, it's like
Dhabi, but Hungary
almost 2
is
months
actually
after.
mid-season.
Okay.
Yeah, they pushed
So-
Hungary to August.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's far off. That
Yeah,
was in
right
June
after
this year,
Miami,
wasn't
you
it?
got you've got, let's see, you've got Italy, Monaco, Spain right after Miami. That
They'll get it right by Italy.
Yeah.
By Italy, they'll have it right. They'll start becoming a little bit more of a force. You're going to see them popping up as the second car. I don't know who's going to be the first car. And that's incredible for the first time in, 20 years, basically? No, 2009, so 16 years. 16 years since we had an unreliable number one. Last time it happened was Braun. So this is going to be really, really interesting. I can see all three of the top teams. Like I said, I think McLaren is going to fall off because I think a lot of their tricks got exposed. And I know a lot of them have been closed doored because they were borderlining illegal on 95% of the shit they were doing with that car. Those loopholes are getting closed. I think once the stress tests come out for the front wing,
they're not changing. That was announced today.
I have not seen it yet. Then
I posted it. They're not changing the stress test. That's
some bullshit.
Yeah, no shit. Let me tell you, confirmed. No changes will be made to the current front wing flex test in F1. Nicholas Tumbias confirmed. Posted it today.
So that means you're going to have Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull all rocking out with one, and then McLaren lose their advantage of that flexi wing.
Mm-hmm.
Because if there's one thing that Mercedes and Red Bull both do very, very well, is that flex wing. And we both know that one, Fabian. I think they're going to outdo McLaren on it. I really do. But at the same time, Aston Martin now needs to be a huge threat because Newey is off that Red Bull leash and allowed to do whatever the fuck he wants to do to that AM.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying I think McLaren now goes probably fifth, realistically. I'm not trying to be a dick here or anything like that to them, but this was their one shot, and I think they lost it because they're not going to have the wind tunnel time now. And the drivers are both going to be told that papaya rules just don't deliberately wreck your partner, and that's it. You're not going to see Norris giving up any grounds to Piastri. You're not going to see Piastri giving up any grounds to Norris. Not at all, especially after that Monza pass last year. That was still, that would have probably been my favorite moment of the season, actually, now that I think about it. But bold prediction here now. McLaren 5th, AM 4th, Ferrari 3rd, Mercedes 2nd, Red Bull. I think once they get that flexi wing on there, I think it's going to be game over. And whenever I say Red Bull, I actually just mean Max, because let's be fucking real here. So I think that's about as bold as it can possibly come.
Pretty bold.
I like it. Go ahead, Fabian. What do you think?
Good deal.
Fabian already did this. It's your turn, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right. So,
Yeah.
bold predictions. Oscar Piastri wins the Drivers' Championship. Ferrari wins the Constructors. McLaren podiums on at least 6 races. Those are my bold 2025 season predictions. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, Piastri, I think Piastri Unleashed is going to be fun to watch.
And that's what I think. I think the team, there's going to be plenty of conversation to be had in the offseason. His performance speaks for itself.
And we know that Lando will cave the moment that he is unleashed and gets his ass whipped by him. Lando's mind is going to screw up the rest of his season. He doesn't have the mental capacity and the emotional IQ to be a world champion. Not now. He doesn't.
Tertiary bold prediction. I think Lando overcomes the starting hump. I think that if he takes pole, he will finish podium no matter what. He won't blow it on the first lap anymore, though. He will at least keep it until he pits. I think he's more often than not. I think it will still plague him, but I think he's gonna overcome the hump. So if you look at a 500th percentile or whatever, half the time, he more often than not will finish on the podium from pole. Then he drops off and doesn't, and he won't lose it on the first lap anymore. That's gonna be a thing of the past for him.
I can't see Lando getting over this.
No, it's a bold prediction for me, right? Yeah. It's not from you. Yeah. It's a bold prediction. I think he's going to overcome his first lap hump and at least like not lose on the first lap more often.
I think
than-
that Liam Lawson was given the role because he showed that he doesn't give a shit about or have any respect for the older drivers or the veteran drivers. And they need him to be the wrecking ball behind Max. And that Lando and Lawson will be tangling a good bit.
I could see that actually. I'm not even debating that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So
let
you're thinking
him
he takes on more of
absorb the
Bozos
drama.
role.
Yep.
Yeah, let him take over the drama and be the bad guy, and Max can like try to resume a good guy image as best as possible, as difficult as it may be.
What do we think the impact of Max's child is going to be on Max?
Ooh, I don't think
I don't
any
think
at
it's
all.
gonna calm
Honestly,
him down at all.
No.
He's already got
I
P,
don't think-
dude, like straight up. And it's funny
not one
because like,
iota. Yeah,
it's funny because everybody's like, "Oh, what are you gonna do now that you're gonna be a dad?" And he's like, "Well, I'm already a bonus dad, so what are you talking about?" You know, like
I think I think it's in his mind that like it doesn't matter. The rest of this is ancillary. Everything besides racing is secondary. Racing is the first and foremost and the only thing. The rest of it
We
is
say
just
we say that, but as actual parents, we know how shit really changes.
so biologically it will change and augment his brain in a certain way. He will start producing different hormones. He will like soften up, so to speak. He will become more empathetic to things. I don't think that any of that will translate into racing. Who was it? Like I think Jokic, the basketball player, and he was asked by a reporter, you know, since you become a father, like, you know, has that changed your interaction with your teammates and how you are in the locker room, or, you know, like your approach to basketball? And he's like, no, this will not help you becoming a dad. No, this won't help you. It just means I have a better reason to not play basketball. You know, it's like, I love that shit. Like, that was as direct, honest, and as absolute as you could be. And I think that's going to be Max's approach to this, is sort of Jokic's approach to, you know, that question. It's like, no, this doesn't change anything for me. I'm still going to be the same exact driver. And Jay makes the point, like, he's already a bonus dad. This isn't going to change anything. It is supposed to change you, you know, in your brain, but like I say again, like his first, foremost, everything, it's different in a way that the rest of humanity minus, you know, 0.00001% can possibly understand, where you are born and bred to do this thing. And very few people ever get to find what that thing is. He definitely has, and he that's why he's in the position he's in. But yeah, I don't think it's going to change him at all.
no, not one iota. It may make him think about going over top of somebody the next time, but that's about it.
Yeah, I think if anything, it will make him a little bit more hesitant on some of these dives and things. But honestly, not significantly, not noticeably, probably. You know.
Yeah. Maybe he'll distance himself from Yost a little bit.
All right, gents, you guys ready to wrap?
Yeah.
All right, I believe this has been episode 16. If it's not, it's episode 17. We'll figure it out in the post edit. But thank you all for listening. This is Formula One Fans of America, and we will see you all in 2025.
One more hand gesture.